Okay, so this video is going to be for August 27, 2025. It's going to be a quick review of how the overall day went for me today in terms of trading. I would say today is characterized pretty much very choppy market, at least personally. Again, this might be because Nvidia earnings are post-market today. I mean, in general, it seemed like very choppy action. Very little stock that you could find that had very good trading using the strat, but we'll just go over what we took today for sure. So first up on the list, I was holding a Lily swing from yesterday, LLY, and this one yesterday just was really nice because again we talked about how it was a kicking pattern to the upside here. First obvious target was going to be this gap fill. So this morning, when I was managing it off the first fiber, just take a look here, right? First fiber goes, I have two up, great, 2, 1, and then that green line is noticed that gap fill target, 2, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, and then this red area is ADR. So when I see ADR, it hits, it goes inside, inside, and just starts going against me here, crosses below like my two moving averages. As well, if you like, we talked about how like when I'm trying to trade off the open, I kind of create like a little like trend line, right? So at this point, when price kind of breaks below it, I'm just, and I've already hit my target. I don't want to give up those gains, so I just pretty much took off the position at that point. I mean, if it wants to go higher, I can always get back in later on. But if you're holding it and it goes below those moving averages and goes below VWAP, right? I mean, these are your lines of defense when you're up here at this high. Like, I just want to be out because I want to take my quick profits. But hey, if you want to use the moving averages, that's your next line to get out. And when it goes below your target and VWAP, right, that's your next line. And if you're gonna wait even further, it changes the daily continuity from green to red. At that point, what's your next level defense? Like your low of the day. But I mean, if it breaches your low of the day, the stock could potentially just be going from a full green to red day, right? And we'll just take a look, right? We're always trying to ask ourselves, like, if you held this long, do you really want to hold till tomorrow, right? Because this honestly could go two up, failed red. Where does this want to tell you it wants to go? Back to the bottom of this, broadening formation. First target here, second target here, potentially all the way to the bottom there. You got plenty of target. I mean, we're not going to talk about it going all the way down there, but like if you were asking me, hey, do I want to swing this till tomorrow? Probably not, right? So I took my profits pretty much somewhere up there above the daily gap fill. Happy about that. Um, and so that was good in terms of managing that one. I mentioned previously that I had taken swings overnight on Palantir and on Hood. This one I had to unfortunately cut the position. The rationale is that pretty much like off that first open here, right? Off the first open here, we are pretty much, and you see a green faint line here, yellow faint line here. These are my daily open and my weekly open, right? When I lose those and they change from green to red, I want to just be out of that trade ASAP. Because when those flip on me, right? We talk about we talk about time frame continuity. If that first hour is going to go red and the week is red and the day is red, that's a short waiting to happen. So, I mean, I don't know if I would totally go short right from here. Certainly there are people that would. And maybe you can be more patient, wait for a better time frame signal to get you in there. But at least for me, this is a sign when it goes 3 on the first 5 and it goes continuation 2 down. I cut my position in Hood. I think it was a slight loss, 10%, 12%, 15%, something small like that, which is fine because again, I can always get back into the trade if it tells me otherwise. Um, and so, looking at it though, right, when you notice that the week is red, the day is red, and the current hour is red, right, you probably are thinking you want to short that. If you have the confidence to take one, maybe you're looking for like a 10 or a 15er to get you in there. I know some traders that are, when I talked about how it went 3-2 continuation down, they would probably be in at the jump there. Let's see if there's anything more obvious on like a 10 or 15 signal here. So you had like this mess down here, but nothing quite obvious off the bat. I encourage you guys to use a higher time frame. So let's just take a look here on the 30s, right? 30s, you had a pretty good signal here. A little bit choppy, but you know, you had something in there. So 212 to the downside here, marked out the entry with a black line. Usually I do a purple line. Um, but yeah, this is kind of like your possible entry here in terms of like where you'd enter 312 to the downside. You never get a 30 against you, which is good. We can take a closer look at the action on the fiber to see if it's a little bit more clear, right? So, you know, this is your black line. You could have gotten in here. You could have been a little bit more patient, expected a TTO, and then waited for that red candle to kind of like seal the deal, right? Really thick red, and also closes below your entry to get you in. In terms of where would we set our stops, right? When you're up here, like obviously we talked about daily continuity, weekly continuity up here, but you don't necessarily want to wait for the trade to get all the way up there before you get stopped out, because again, um, we want to keep our losses small, right? So, um, two things. So you can notice that this triggers, we're still within the 7:30 hour. So 7:30, let's see where 7 o'clock would be, or where would 7:30 be? So 7:30 candle, this is the 7:30 candle here, right? And I guess this is the high um, of the hour there. So I would say if you're in off this hour, like you don't, we talked about how you have continuity because the week is red, the day is red, but your current hour or what's happening right now is also red, right? So I would say, you know, the high here, if it goes above your and changes the continuity of your hour from red to green, that would be probably your obvious line of defense, right? Um, Not only is it the hour, but it's also the 30, so it's almost like two levels of defense together. Um, and you know, it's also above kind of like near that 20-day moving average area. So a close there would probably be like telling you, you know, get the heck out of your trade. Um, and if that wasn't enough for you, if it goes beyond VWAP and closes above VWAP, that's definitely like, you know, to get out of your trade on a short. So we'll follow this trade. It continues to go, right? You know, as always, when you get into your trade, you want to mark out your targets, right? So this is a pretty obvious target. Look to the left, another obvious target out here, another obvious target out here. We're just looking for pivot lows, right? And obviously you can mark down here too if you wanted to. Um, so let's see, right? So at this point you're just following. You never really have a 30 against you. You can just kind of, you know, wait a bit here. Once you hit your first target, you're expecting a TTO, right? What do you want to do at this point? I would say you probably want to take some off the table, especially when you're noticing this price action, right? You know, this thing was clearly trailing the blue line. Every time it hits the blue line, the 10 EMA, it just bounces right back down, bounces right back down. And so when it gets really tight here, and finally you get this fiber that reclaims, right, that that 10, it goes above. That's probably your first signal to get out of your trade or at least close some position. If you want to leave runners, right, and you want to trail the rest of your position, sure, and you got, you know, rewarded for it at the second target. But I would say this area is probably your obvious out. And looking at the 30, right, I'm guessing that's probably when you had your first, you know, 2112 to the reverse here. Um, so pretty obvious exit at this position, right? And we talk about probably you can your exits here at your target, or you know when you get some type of reversal, which we clearly see, you know, through not only a reversal against on the 30, but also here. Um, we also talk about that hour too, right? When that hour flips from red to green, we want to be out. So you could have said perhaps, you know, 9:30 hour right here, right? This is the high of that 9:30. When the candle flips above and switches my candle from being red to green, again, another exit out of your trade if you took this short. I did not, but it is what it is. Palantir, same story with Palantir. I held this one from yesterday. I was like, okay, initially it poked up, triggered two up on the day, fat red candle downwards, continuation red. I was like, ooh, that ain't good. I'll probably have to cut some of my position, so I cut part of it just to reduce the risk. And then I was like, I had this broadening formation drawn kind of, so I was thinking to myself, at the bottom of the broadening formation, maybe we'll get a bounce. And certainly we did get a bounce, but then as soon as the price started going like, bounced up, hit this kind of pivot, goes down further, retest VWAP, goes down, tries to pull up again, like at that point, and then you see like this 30 kind of signal triggering against you, this double inside 13112, and it starts going. I'm like, that's a short at that point. Um, would I take that short? This is not as clear as this short is not as clear as Palantir. I mean, sorry, this short is not clear as Hood. The reason is at this point the week is still green. You can see the yellow line over here, right? So when you have both the day and the week going in your direction and the hour, then that's probably a better trade. In this case, it's conflict. You got your week that's green, you got your day that's red, and you got your hour that's red. Maybe you trust the day and the hour, but um, and this is a good setup to the downside as well. But it definitely doesn't go as far um, as Hood does. But if you're in it from today and you're swinging it short, then obviously you're liking this because you want this to go to the bottom of the broad formation and go further down. So yeah, and on the hour too, it doesn't hit its daily magnitude, but you have this 30 target right here that is a clear, nice indicator target that you probably could have taken. Um, and again, if you trail the fives, right, you'll probably find some instance where it's pretty obvious, right? If you're on like 8:30, this is the 8:30 candle, right? And it flips from here. This is 8:30, right? So when this goes above and turns the candle um, from red to green at this candle, the next one, we want to be out, right? Because then we no longer have alignment with the day. The day is red, but suddenly the hour is green. We don't want to necessarily be in that trade. Um, Same thing. Let's say you're in the trade from here. Right. This triggers at 8 o'clock. So mark out two areas, right? What's your level of defense? Your 30 and your 60. So where's the 30 here? 8 o'clock hits. This is the top of your 8 o'clock, right? So that's our marked out our area level of defense. We don't want the hour. Sorry, we don't want the 30 minutes to switch. Where's your level of defense on the hour? 7:30, right here, right? So, you know, and then finally you have your daily continuity as well. So, so, right, this is a pretty clear area. You also have here, you also have VWAP. So somewhere in this mess is going to be your level of defense. As well as you have a kind of a moving average area as well. So when price closes above, somewhere in this area up here, like above VWAP, above your, day, because it's going to turn your current 30 from a red to green, then that can be your level of defense in terms of your exit. Um, yeah, let's see here. In terms of trades I tried to take today, I tried to take Amazon, and I also tried to take Tesla. We'll talk about both of those. So Amazon here, I think I was trying to be patient. I was thinking to myself, right, the week is still green, so it's kind of like, or sorry, the week is green, but it's still inside, and the previous week is inside. So I'm a little bit cautious. I don't necessarily want to take weekly contracts because like this could take a while to push above, right? If it was gonna break, it would have broken Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But the fact is, it's already Wednesday, halfway through the week, and so we still haven't broken it. I want to give it time just in case we stay inside another week. That way I can potentially benefit off of a 2-1 double inside break up, right? Um, so Amazon here, 2 up on the day, and I believe that triggered off the first like 5 minutes of the day, I believe, somewhere close. Let's take a look. Yeah. So 30-minute candle. I tried to get in. In retrospect, it wasn't a good entry, but I mean, you never know. But I took it off of this 3-1-2 up right here. I liked it because it was above the daily. And then, the week is still green, so you're like, it's looking good. Plus, I have targets above, so I think, if today is strong, we can continue going higher and higher. Um, Unfortunately, it just didn't go. Like, I think I got triggered off this green candle right here because it's close slightly above my signal, but the next two up red was like, ooh, that's a warning sign. So again, let's talk about our level of defense, right? This triggers at 7:35. What's our candle on the 7:30? Right here. Okay. Right. So that's our first candle of the hour, right? Because our week is green, our day is green, right? Um, this is going to be our first level of defense because this is our current hour, right? If the hour lines up with our day and our week, that's great. But if it starts changing the continuity of the candle, then you're like, you don't want to necessarily be in that trade anymore. And so, um, I mean, we've talked about how your level of defense can be the trigger as well, right? So when this goes against you, some people might be out. The problem with that situation is you get choppy action sometimes where you're like in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. So I like to just give it a little bit more defense or a little bit less defense just because I want to avoid a situation where I'm just getting chopped up by entering in over and over and over again. Um, but hey, these are your options. So right here is a good level of defense. It's very close to the VWAP and close to these moving averages. So I may not exit entirely just off of that. So I see the price goes, it like kind of like taps the, it's like basically it's fighting at this point. But when I see this giant 3 candle that like turns the hour green to red, goes below the VWAP, goes below the moving averages, that is definitely a clear sign to get out. And if you want to be even riskier or give it more room, daily continuity as well, right? It never really gets there, but eventually it does. Um, so unfortunately, that's the issue. In retrospect, the bigger issue actually was mother bar, right? You have this mother bar that forms on the first day, and price action is just chopping within this range because it can't get out. There's no volume. There's no people in the trade. Um, people might just be nervous for what Nvidia earnings are gonna be. You don't know, but um, yeah, I did end up holding a bit more just at the very end. I was like in it from off this last um, 2 down, 2 up, thinking maybe we're gonna get some kind of like big buying on the last hour. Very small position though, holding that overnight. We'll see how it goes. I just like the fact that we're still green, red, and I have time, right? Plenty of time for next week to make a move. Now, if tomorrow we open and it goes from like, straight red like we saw for Palantir Hood, then I'm going to have to cut that position ASAP, right? Keep your losses small. Yep. What's next? Oh, yeah. I also took Apple and Tesla. So Tesla didn't go too hot. Um, I was excited, just like I was with a lot of things. You had this 2, 1, 1, 2, right? Everyone knew at this point Tesla was 2 up in force. Yes, you had exhaustion risk, but it's Tesla, and you still have targets above, so something to note there. We never hit the first target on the day. In fact, we kind of just peaked up above there, and then we went double inside, 2 up, right? I was excited to take that. Problem was, let's talk about our levels of defense. Let's talk about our levels of defense, basically where we're going to be out of the trade, right? So this triggers on the 8 o'clock hour. So you have your 30-minute right there, and then you have your 7:30. Well, 7:30 is right here in terms of where the first candle is. Um, Whether you want to set it for the open of the 30, or you can also set it for the low of the 30 of that hour is fine as well. But those are your two, spots, right? The open and the low. Um, I like again having these other confluences like the moving average or the VWAP somewhere in between, so that you can help you make that decision on whether you want to wait for the final break, as well as like daily continuity. So just looking at it, obviously, right? I think the most obvious place is somewhere around this area because you have VWAP, you also have daily continuity, and you have the continuity of the hour. So when all those things flip, right here, for example, I took the trade up here. I was like, okay, it might go. And it chops around, up and down, right? We talked about why we don't necessarily want to use this line as a line of defense, because you're just going to get chopped in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Um, so basically, I want to give it an appropriate amount of room. So Tesla gets down here, it goes down here. At this point, I'm like, this is just not great. And then, like, I was just pretty much out of the position somewhere at this point. I think I waited all the way here just because I was, Tesla can move a lot, so I was like trying to be as patient as possible. But I don't want to stay in it beyond that. Why is that? Because if the day turns red, right, we end up in a situation like this where, like, as a trader, do you want to see this kind of action, right? Where's the next 2 gonna go? Well, price closed down here, and if price wants to continue going down there with no reversal against, then you're gonna get a 2 down, and you're gonna go all the way here, right? So if I'm long, I don't want to see this, right? As well, I've got this Browning formation drawn out, where you're kind of at the top of this internal Browning formation, and if you go to the bottom, where is it gonna go? Possibly, potentially down there. gonna happen in a day? No, but I don't want it to start from here and all the way down there. So, granted, you still have the week in your favor, but and also I believe the month, the week. But if we're a short-term trader and I've got weekly contracts, I don't necessarily want to be, sitting through so much correction. I'd rather have that buying power and just move on at that point. Yeah. Okay, so I took Apple as well. Let's take a look at Apple. Apple, okay. 3 on the month, green, nice. It's already hit kind of a couple targets, but set up for next month. 2 up, perhaps, maybe not. Not really a rev strat, but the point I'm trying to make is that it's green, nice. Fortunately, on the week, it is still inside on the week, so instead of going weekly as I went for next week's, perhaps you get a 2-1-1-2 to the upside, and then hit multiple targets. Trigger up 2 up on the month, 2 up on the quarter, so forth. On the day, it was 2 up, so that was kind of cool. Just go ahead and mark that out. The day. There you go. Alright, so what did I see here on Apple? 2-1-2 off the break in the beginning of the day. Didn't work out too well, so got stopped out of that. Actually, did I get stopped out there? Let me just double check here. Well, we can talk about it, right? So I marked out, that's that first area to get in, and then I'll mark out my other area at the end of the day where I got in as well. Cool. So here, all right. Okay, so here you had the entry in, right? So this is your 7:30 candle would be right here. And then, you know where your daily continuity is, you know where your trigger line here is. So, it kind of poked up. It would seemingly look like, hey, we were going to try to make a push up higher. Didn't work. And then when this kind of not only changed the day from red to green, I still gave it a chance because it didn't close against me, and I like to let it close. But when you got to a point where it was like around here, where it closes against you, and also changes um, the 30 current 30 against you, right? So the current 30 bottom is right there, right? So the current 30 is now red, and then this now changes the hour red. So at that point, and you're also below these like moving averages, like that's probably your tight exit to get out. If you want to wait for it to go below VWAP, that's a possibility as well. But um, yeah, it never changes the daily continuity, which is good. That's part of why I decided I was gonna keep this on my watch list because it's strong enough. If it can hold above daily continuity, then perhaps it can continue moving up the next day. Um, so let's see, where was the next place I took a trade here? Um, here we go. Let's see. Yeah, I could have taken one off this like 2 down, but I just didn't like it. I usually like to take rev strats, so stuff that has an inside bar and up break. So I did see this Apple on this last 30 minutes. I saw that it was like pushing up higher, so I just took a small trade there off this 30 right here. Noted with another 15er candle. Move to the 5. So this is the previous entry in. So right here, I was like, okay, I'll try to take one, and Apple's a good company. I'll take it whole. I'll be comfortable holding this overnight. In the level of defense, obviously 1230, it never pokes down below that. So the last 30, the last hour, it just goes, and you have this kind of action, but it never flips my hour. So just holding that overnight. So yeah, that's all I've got for today in terms of trades. Not super great, just because like most of the trades I took, they didn't have very big winners. Stuff I took, it was just kind of losses. Um, something to think about, right? That I've been thinking about too is like having a certain playbook based on the market regime, or basically, depending on how the market's acting, you want to have a different type of game plan, right? It seems like right now, like swings are not being rewarded, where like, hey, you take a trade, you try to take a continuation the next day. It's really difficult to get in, right? And when you're in, it doesn't seem like it wants to continue going your way, like continuation action from day to day. Uh, and something to note is that, hey, the market's very choppy as well. So when it's choppy like that, it seems like it's best to give it like a very um, tight leash. Whereas if we're in a market where things are just trending, they're always going up, you're always going up. You hit a target, you TTO, it keeps going up and up and up. In those situations, it seems better to give like a longer leash, right? A wider stop. Um, but in this type of environment, not so much. So I think going forward, I'm gonna try to keep a tighter leash on my stocks because I don't think I'm taking bad entries. And you guys may agree or disagree with me, but I think the entries or the trades I'm taking aren't necessarily bad, right? I'm not FOMOing in. I'm not taking any of these weird two up continuation trades. I'm just trying to stay patient, double inside break. Nothing wrong with that. Doesn't go your way, get out, right? Um, just unfortunate right now that didn't get out, but or didn't. A lot of them are not going my way, so to speak. But you know, we'll see if see if Amazon can help me out in that regard. Um, we'll see how that goes. Yeah. As well, I think I talked about long-term portfolio stuff. I mentioned to Phil Visa. I like Visa, right? Because again, I'm ignoring kind of the daily and like the intraday stuff here because I'm more focused in terms of a long-term portfolio. What we look for in like a week and a month. So obviously on the month, right, you have a possibility. Next month we go 122 up. Um, you know, since we made a new bottom, we reclaimed it. We're going to down, failed, green, and then we have a possibility, right? If next month we trigger up, or then we can also trigger 312 quarterly up as well to all-time highs. And financials are seemingly a strong sector right now as well. So, um, yeah, cool. Thanks, guys. Cut the video here.